Thank you very much. So I guess that the green button is forward and the red one is backwards. Is that correct?
Seems like it.
Okay. So thank you very much for letting us be here, and thank you. Maybe a little bit of an extra thank you for letting me being here. I have spent the entire day listening to people, knowing a lot of things about tech, and realizing I have a good degree in theology. I have another degree in the history of science and ideas. And during my day-to-day work, I work as head of development at the city of Gothenburg, which means that at the city of Gothenburg, primary education administration. Working today with schools means that you also work with something that is based on a lot of things. But just to give you a short and a little bit of an idea, this talk that we are going to hold here today is going to be a little bit about small meeting big, maybe fast meeting slow, maybe smart meeting dumb. I don't know if we're the dumb in that case, but basically what we're doing is that we're trying to make the primary educational system in Gothenburg to work, which means that we have about 10 billion Swedish crowns to take care of. We have about 10,000 employees. We have about 140 different schools. That's not really true. That's a bunch more. And it's going to be quite few less. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a moment. And we have about 47,000 students in our care. And then we have about 10 or 13,000 students that goes to what's in Sweden called free schools. But it's also part of our educational system in Gothenburg. Being in this kind of setting is, of course, based on a lot of responsibility, because we also handle a lot of data. Data concerning our students, data concerning our kids, but also data concerning our employees. And of course, then we also have data concerning a lot of our other people in the city, like parents and other co-workers, etc., etc. So doing this needs a lot of things. We have a huge problem at the administration of primary education today. And our large challenge is not primarily based on all the factors that we have, all the challenges that we have with data. Our largest challenge right now is that within 5 to 7 years, there will be about 6,500 students less in our system. And that has nothing to do with anything else that we have too little sex and we have too few immigrants. So we know this. But since we are the large elephant, we don't move that fast. We need to save about 1.5 billion Swedish crowns within 5 to 7 years. To save about 1.5 billion Swedish crowns, you don't get rid of 2 employees. You don't close down a division here and there. We need to merge schools. We need to close down schools. We need to become more efficient. And I have a team that until today have done a tremendous work of trying to make forecasts based on the data that we have, trying to figure out how can we make the best possible decisions on the data that we have today. But we have just reached that far. So when I was given the opportunity to join this organization about a year ago, I came from a role as a CEO of an investment company where we were investing in startups. I saw that we had a couple of things that we needed to address. And a couple of those challenges that we are facing today is basically based on that we had a capability gap. We had a lot of ideas, a lot of concept that we wanted to try. We didn't have the real executional power to do that. Second, even if we were able to buy that executional power, we are a hard bargain, and it's tricky to make business with someone who always need to do each and every deal with a large bids and tender public sector thing. We are really, really slow. We don't lack money. We have money. We have a lot of money if we spend it right. But it's quite tricky to do business with us. Third, Our data governance implies a lot of things. It implies all the rules that we heard about her earlier from Cecilia, that we need to follow them, and we need to follow them quite strictly. I mean, after all, we are using and working with the data of students, right? So how do you actually bridge the gap when everybody is afraid of the GDPR monster? Everybody jumps high when they hear anything that has to do with different laws and regulatory systems. How do you bridge that, and how do you go around it or under it or at least beneath it? We saw also that within our tech stack or within our current tools, the tools tends to be a little bit technical. What we wanted was that each and every civil servant in our organization could use different tools to do analysis and to do proper data recognition within their field of expertise. But the tools are and was quite heavy, and the tools were quite complex for each and every user. So you needed to be somewhat of an analyst to actually be able to use them. So we have a bunch of great analysts in our organization, but they also become a bit of a bottleneck, since being the analyst that you always needed to be able to do any type of analysis, at the end it turns out that we needed something that could help our principals, our civil servant, our project managers to actually be quicker and faster. So what did we do? The elephant started looking for a mouse, or at least for someone that's a little bit faster and a little bit more tech savvy. So we found you, and we realized, let's try to do this together in some way. And exactly what did we find?
Yeah,
here to you.
Thank you. 3 things made this possible. 1, we closed the capability gap. We came in with Inblick already running in another municipality like Göteborgs Stad. 2, reinvented our commercial model to make it easy to buy. And Karl will talk about this a little bit later. And 3, the one that surprised us the most, no pilot was needed in this case. Karl and his team wanted to learn together with us, not just buy a platform. So we signed up for a full year together. And this is what the first 100 days looked like. Most of it was data warehouse setup, access to the first data sets, and getting through the SQL server, all while navigating GDPR and compliance every step of the way. Not glamorous, but that's where the real work lives. The semantic context layer is what teaches the AI what the data is actually about and what it means in a school context. Without it, you get confident nonsense. We gave access to key stakeholders first, not users. They are evangelists, not critics. But in 1 week from now, real users will be running their own queries in Inblick. This is what it looks like when it's up and running. No dashboards to configure, no SQL editor, just a prompt, an interface everyone in this room already knows. Under the hood, every question gets translated to SQL, executed against the data layer, and returned as a chart like this one. And here is the insight that surprised us from another school customer. Before Inblick, school managers and principals waited several weeks for an analyst to pull numbers for them manually. So principals ran their schools with gut feeling instead of facts. With this, they get the answers in seconds. And because every question lives in the same context, you can keep digging. You can slice by grade, you can slice by gender, by year, whatever the next question is. And the dashboard shows you what happened. Follow-up questions let you ask why. And the analyst bottleneck is gone. So, when users find data that's worth coming back to, they pin it, and that's it. Over time, they build their own dashboard from the questions they actually ask. And each pinned insight stays live. You can come back, you can keep asking questions, just like a resume into a chat. So the dashboard isn't static. It's like a post-it notes, only relevant for some time. Our users are really busy people like principals and school managers, not data analysts. So the user experience has to make sense instantly. Every question you ask becomes SQL code like this one. And if you are the one curating a semantic layer, you can open up any query and verify that the model actually understood what the user asked. That is also how we debug the semantic layer when the AI gets something wrong. So under the hood, this is how it works. First, a data layer connects and unifies data from all the school systems. Student records, grades, and attendance, they all live in different places with different quality. Getting that consolidated is half the battle, and we talked about that earlier. Then a semantic layer gives you the data context. For example, what does student performance actually mean in this organization? What counts as absence? These definitions are not universal. They are specific to how the city of Gothenburg runs its schools. And finally, AI agents use that context to answer questions. Each question routes through the right agent, and each agent can use a different LLM. Claude, GPT, Mistral, whichever does the job for you. When the AI landscape improves, Imblic improves with it automatically. And we do all of this without sending sensitive data to external AI models. Your data stays yours. However, there is an important trade-off with this solution. Keeping data out of the LLM makes it secure, but it also limits what the AI can reason about. The model can see the question, the schema, the structure, but not the actual numbers. So when a school manager asks, why did absence spike in April? The AI can retrieve it, but it can't really make sense of it. So instead, we believe security has to be solved at the source. And because of that, we are now reshaping how Imblic works from the ground up. The logo in the middle you see here is the MCP logo. It means Model Context Protocol, an open standard for connecting AI applications to data and tools. Most of you probably know this already. So what changes from the previous setup? Well, first, customers can bring their own AI models, like Claude, GPT, Gemini, whichever they trust, and data doesn't leave your infrastructure. The MCP server runs inside it. The model asks questions, the server answers. Second, today's models are remarkably good at visualization and analytics. That capability belongs to them now, not just us. And I can tell you, it was not like that just 100 days ago. Third, this is the big one. If MCP servers connect directly to your source systems, you become less dependent on data layer. Data stays where it lives. And we believe that traditional analytics landscape will look very different very soon. Centralizing data in a data layer becomes less important when MCPs are becoming available in most modern systems. If your data stays as its source, you no longer have to wait for the data team to grant access to something already used. And for anyone in this room who feels stuck with the legacy system, maybe for years, I have some good news for you. Since September 2025, the EU Data Act gives you the legal right to cancel any software service with 2 months' notice, even multi-year contracts with lock-in clauses. And your old provider is legally required to help you switch vendor, which includes exporting your data in a usable format. This combination matters for everyone because some systems have been like data jails for many years, especially for school organizations, but not now. MCP servers unlocks the architecture. The Data Act unlocks the contract. And this is your get out of jail free card. So, how is it to work as a startup with a large organization like City of Gothenburg? It's not easy, but it is possible. And I will let Karl explain this further.
It's not easy. What has been the hardest thing, you think?
I think clearly it has been easier to work with you when in comparison to other municipalities because you're leaning much more you're leaning forward much more. But I think the size of the organization makes it we have to go through more barriers, like how to access data. You have intra service as an example. So it's not like a one step to get access to data.
No, that's true. That's true. And as I said, I only been working with the city for over a little bit more than a year, but 3 leading concepts that we have tried to implement in our organization, or at least in the organization working closest to me, is that we are trying to implement a very clear ownership. And within that ownership, it means that if someone is responsible for something, you're allowed to drive that. You're allowed to drive that as far as it needs to be driven. Which means that you will always have the support from me and from everybody else that's working with other things in connection to you, but you're allowed to drive it and you're supposed to drive it, which means that clear ownership is one of the things that we are trying to enhance. Secondly, we're trying to build a little bit more of a test, learn, and improve organization, which makes perfectly sense for everybody in this room, I guess, but for us, that has been quite driven, or at least organized in a way where you need to ask for acceptance for almost everything. If you're allowed to do it, or am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do that? We're trying to change that a little bit around. We do stuff, and then we might beg for forgiveness afterwards, but at least what we do is that we do things, and then we always ask ourselves, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? So if we do this, David, then we will leak all the personal data about kids that has some kind of disease. That's a bad thing. Let's not do that. But what's the worst thing that can happen? Yeah, maybe if we do this, we will maybe leak some data that is already a public data. Okay, maybe we should try this then. So we're trying to push a little bit of boundaries by testing, learning, and improve. And third, and not least, for being a municipality, being the city of Gothenburg, this is not a common thing to do. We are trying to share our outcomes. And that was also one of the base fundaments that we wanted to do together with you guys. It was that we wanted to learn things. So when we start working with Inblick, we set out on a journey where we said that, okay, we need to address the needs here. The needs from our side is both having a tech and a development and an agile partner that can help us to think differently. But it was also the needs for us to actually set up a new type of learning structure within ourselves. So to be able to actually work and collaborate with someone that's completely different, that was one thing. But then trying to take all the learnings back home and trying to understand how can we work if we do this by ourselves. And we were quite open with that from the beginning, right? So that was one thing. Secondly, that we have learned is that we wanted to make a deal. And as I remember it, maybe I recall it wrongly now, Pia, and you will hit me afterwards, but we were like, okay, we want a deal. Can we do this? And let's do it fast. And you were like, okay, can we have a pilot? No pilots. I hate pilots. Why do we continue to do pilots all the time? Pilots is just a way of saying, we don't know. It's like going in a date and saying, yeah, I might like you. Either you like someone or you don't like someone. Either you get into it together and you try to solve it and do it together, or you don't do it. So we wanted a deal. And one of the challenges there, as far as I recognize, was that you were like, but you're 10,000 employees. What happens is everybody starts using our thing. And then I saw Pia counting tokens when he went to bed. I was like, shit, it's going to implode. We will lose millions if all 10,000 people at the primary schools in Gothenburg would start using our tool. And we were like, calm down. We're an elephant. It's gonna take some time. We're gonna be slow. But if we do it properly, then it will, of course, explode. And what we need to do now is that we need to dance together. So the business model that you had set up as a startup was quite useless for us, since we're an elephant. We cannot work with that business model. And that is actually one of the findings that I have done just during the first year in the city of Gothenburg. I started to sit down with a lot of startups. since I'm from that environment. And I wanted to be like the cool large player who invited everybody. But I also found that many startups didn't even have an idea on how to make business with us. Not even if I said, okay, let's do it, we'll do it together, we'll sign you for a year, but I will not pay your enterprise level price tag because it doesn't make sense. It's going to cost us 40 millions. And many startups didn't even they didn't have the capacity to recalculate. So for us, it was super important that you were so agile and flexible in that, and that you said, okay, let's do it. We'll see what happens. You buy a license. And since we were buying a license, we could go to one of our standard regular license things, and we just bought the license, and we were off. And that has to do with speed. I think that working together, small versus large, you also need to be a little bit flexible, but you also need to work with speed. And speed comes both from the smaller player, but also from the larger player. We want the acceleration, because within this field right now, it's impossible to do anything if you don't do it with a little bit of acceleration. And fourth but not least, we were quite clear on what we wanted. We wanted a tool that our managers, principals, project leaders, etc., civil servants could use within a year. And we wanted a learning process together. And I think we got that. So we are standing here now talking about the first 100 days, and we have a contract that says that we have about 18 months left, right? So what's your prediction? What's going to happen in 18 months? 8 months, sorry, not 18, 8.
Well, I can only see in the near terms we're getting real users in. And beyond that, I think it's really difficult. I mean, during the last 100 days, we have seen about 20 big releases from AI companies like Google, Anthropic, and OpenAI that will certainly change our plans moving forward. So in 8 months, we will know things we cannot predict today.
No. But one thing we do know is that in 8 months, if this collaboration continues to go as it has gone so far, we will continue to collaborate. And whatever product that you come with that is an AI product, you come to a large player as us with today, we know that it's going to be different in 8 months. So collaboration will beat product, at least for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pia and Karl. The web app for question and answers is exploding. You guys have 28 questions, and we only have time for one.
Okay, take the best one then.
So, do you want the GDPR one or ooh, unsexy?
Ah, we can take that.
We can take that. But wait, because we also have another one that I'm personally very interested in. So if you could expand beyond school data, what other government data sources would be most useful to integrate in order to deepen understanding about students and the schools? Yeah.
For us, can I take it?
Take it.
For us right now, anybody who works in real estate, our largest challenge, big time, is that all the real estate companies are crap when it comes to data, which means that we cannot even predict which schools we want to close down, because we don't know size, capacity, volumes, etc., 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 from all the 160 different houses that we rent. So if I were to just wanting something, it's real good and connected real estate data.
Thank you very much for this answer. But then a little bit connected to this, maybe in a way. Do you think this kind of solution could extend beyond its current use case to serve a wider audience, such as politicians, public authorities, the community as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I'm continuing. For me, I always think that when we build something in public sector, we would build and do it also as a public thing. So of course, it would be a useful thing that all the data that we harness and that we use could be used by caregivers, parents, politicians, any members of society that would like to see things. like pure data, would like to see what and how we do things at the primary schools in Gothenburg, that should be open for everybody.
Thank you very much for the answer. Do you have anything to add to this?
No, I think it's on the he knows his business better than me. What I can say is I think MCPs will eventually make public data available, and pseudonymization is also one way to make sensitive data more available. So from a technical standpoint, that would be the way, and then it's just a policy question.
Looking forward to that. Any open data is very welcome in this.
Yeah.
Thank you again,
Thank you.
PA and Karl. Please accept our gift from GAIA.
Excellent.
Nice.